You're tuned into The Drive Show on TAB Radio. The Drive Show with meat on the bone. Rah.
All right, it's 17 minutes past 5. Just heard from John Rillie chatting to Seb a moment ago. It's now time to talk a bit more NBL with Chris Pike. Chris joins us. Good afternoon, Chris. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks, guys. Good to be with you again.
I thought John Rillie was in a pretty chipper mood, and it's easy to be when you're 3-1 and sitting pretty good at the pointy end of the ladder. What have you made of the Perth Wildcats' start to the season, and have you seen any change in John Rillie's demeanour throughout this season so far?
A little bit. Certainly post-match he hasn't been as cranky as he has been previously. Not a whole heap of change in the way he interacts with the referees during a game, but I feel he feels a little more relaxed this season, given he's got a team that he's been able to build, and they're not relying on, obviously, Bryce Cotton. I feel like he probably feels like he's got a little bit more ownership over this team because they're not as reliant on one player, and he should be happy with the way they're playing because they're 3-1 without having played great basketball, but what they are playing great at is their defence. So it's almost a complete reversal of his past couple of years where they've been a really good offensive team that comfortably put up 100 points a game, and they've got, Bryce Cotton there as a hell of a weapon, but defensively they've been very poor. But this season their defence is outstanding. So they're only giving up 78 points a game so far this season. So defensively, in terms of just pure numbers, they're the best across the league. They've only given up more than 80 points a game once. So defensively, they've been terrific. And I think Joe Luala-Chul has been a big part in that, just the inside presence that he provides. Dylan Windler, obviously, with his rebounding, has been terrific. I think Christian Doolittle's still been pretty good to start the season as well. And then the fact that they've won 3 of the 4 games and they've been pretty average offensively for the most part, I think, yeah, he's got good reason to be pretty content right now while thinking that his team's got a lot of improvement left in it.
Yeah, so where is that improvement coming from, do you think? What's the next area of their game that they can improve on to take their game to the next level?
Well, it's purely offensively.
Yeah,
their
but what part of the offense? Is it Mason Jones?
Yeah, well, it is. It's in the backcourt because, Joe Luala-Chul has been outstanding. You can't ask for much more than what he's giving. Dylan Windler's been terrific. But the backcourt overall is really struggling. Right now, Jaron Rillie is still their best guard in that team, and he's a development player. He's only played 3 games in his NBL career, but again, against Cairns last Friday night, he was their best guard. He ends up playing 21 minutes for that game, and they're again plus 16 with him out on the floor. So you can't keep relying on him to be doing that because he's only, like I said, he's only 3 games into his NBL career. So they brought in Mason Jones to be that player let's be honest, to be the Bryce Cotton replacement. And right now he's not delivering and he's too hesitant. He's turning down far too many shots. He's getting some good looks, but just looks reluctant to shoot the ball right now. And his numbers are not great for a guy that's, stepping into the shoes that he is. Less than 10 points a game, less than 3 assists a game. So he's not scoring enough. He's also not, distributing the ball enough, and he's shooting at 29% from the field and only 23% from 3. So the pressure starts to build on him now because he's had enough time to now settle in. He's been here for, 6 weeks now, and his best game is still that first game that he played when it was a preseason game against the Japanese team. So, yeah, he needs to just back himself more. He looks like he's down on confidence, but you can say that for the rest of the backcourt as well. So Ben Henschel is not the player that he thought he was going to be coming back. He thought he was an NBA level player, and he's quickly finding out that life's a little bit tougher coming back to this league. And he had an absolute stinker against Cairns, didn't score. He blew a wide open dunk and only played 7 minutes for that entire game. And again, he's shooting terribly. He's going 1 of 11 from 3 over the first 4 games. So, yeah, they would have penciled in Mason Jones and Ben Henschel to be the starting backcourt, and right now they're both really struggling. But yeah, I think they'll back them in to find their way as the season goes on, and that's where the natural improvement comes from because they're basically getting nothing out of those 2 guys right now. But they're capable of sort of quadrupling their output once they get their confidence back up.
Melbourne United at $3 to win the outright NBL 2025-2026 championship. I asked John Riley who he thought was the team to beat, and he said pretty quickly Melbourne United. They're 5-0. He couldn't really find a chink in their armour, or not one that he was willing to give up on radio to tell us about. But do you see one at all in Melbourne United at the moment, Pikey?
Not really, but I guess the question mark over them is, can they deliver once they get to a Game 5 of a championship series? They've lost in that situation in the last 2 years now. So they've looked, just as good as this the last couple of years as well, and haven't quite been able to win the championship. And this is a very different team, though. So, they've made the change by not bringing back Jack White and Matthew Dellavedova and a host of other players. But, we haven't seen them at full strength yet either. So Chris Golding only just came back to play his first game when they beat Cairns on Sunday, and they've been without Shaili now for the last couple of games, and they will be without him for another couple of weeks. So there's no chink in the armour because the pieces that they brought in are terrific. So Jesse Edwards has settled in very nicely as a big man. Tyson Walker as an import guard has been terrific, and then Milton Doyle is providing exactly what they would have expected from somebody that has his credentials from what we've seen at Tasmania. So they do look the best prepared and the best organised team right now. So 5 games in, they've won all 5. So I agree that they're the championship favourites right now, but yeah, there's a lot of work to do as well. And I find it almost impossible to not see them being 7-0 by this time next week, because they've got 2 pretty easy kills this week to come as well. So they've got the Brisbane Bullets on Friday night, and then they come back home to play the Breakers on Sunday. So I think they'll be 7-0. But yeah, there's not so much a weakness there, but there will be some questions that start to get asked the longer they go into the finals, just because they haven't been able to get the job done over the last couple of years. Just over
3 minutes until our next event here at Gloucester Park Punters. Get your bets on there. Let's have a look at this doubleheader tomorrow afternoon/evening. Tasmania Jack Jumpers, Sydney Kings going head-to-head. This one down in Tassie, 2.14 for the Jack Jumpers. The Kings, $1.71, and that line at 2.5.
No, that surprises me. Jack Jumpers back home for the first time in a month, and they'll be very excited to be back home. And they're playing pretty well. They're 3-2, and they went 3-1 on the road. The only loss that they had was to Adelaide. So I know Sydney coming off a really good win in Adelaide, but playing the Jack Jumpers in Hobart is a different story. I think the Jack Jumpers will get this win and enjoy being back home for a night.
Perth Wildcats 133, the Bullets at $3.35. Tough few days for the Bullets. Should Perth be getting yet another win at home against the Bullets on Wednesday night?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'll be jumping on at the line, whatever the line is for the Wildcats. I think this is a big win. Really tough time for the Bullets right now. They're coming off a 27-point loss to the Hawks on Saturday, and that's a Hawks team who hadn't won a game yet by that stage. They're still without a couple of their most important players, Sam McDaniel and Mitch Norton. They've already released their import, Javon Freeman Liberty. So yeah, they're down on confidence. They're down on numbers. So I think a big win for the Wildcats. This could be the one where their offense really starts to find its groove. I think you could expect to see a big game from Mason Jones and see them really break out. I imagine the Wildcats will put up 100 points in this game and probably win by 20 plus. So
okay.
I think they'll enjoy their Ignite Cup game tomorrow night.
Okay, so Jack Jumpers head-to-head into the Wildcats at -8. Final game we'll look at, which we have markets on Tab Touch. The 36ers taking on Southeast Melbourne. 36ers on their home deck are the favourites, $1.45. Southeast Melbourne, $2.75 in the line at 5.5.
Interesting game. I'll stick with the 36ers to bounce back because they had a pretty poor game against the Kings, but what the Kings showed was a real blueprint of how to shut the 36ers down. They put enormous pressure on Bryce Cotton, and Bull Kowal and Matthew Dellavedova were leading that charge, where they just quite simply denied him the ball. So they've provided the blueprint there for the Phoenix, and the Phoenix have the sort of defensive players where they could do something similar. So it'll be fascinating to see how if Adelaide have figured some things out from what Sydney did to them, and what answers Mike Wells has to try to make sure Bryce is a little bit free. The Phoenix will test them. The Phoenix will give them everything, but I think, we expect Adelaide to be pretty good this year, and I can't imagine they'll lose 2 games in a row on their home floor.
Before we let you go, Gloucester Park, just over 90 seconds away. Of the teams down the bottom, Hawks, Bullets, Breakers, Taipans have had a tough start to the year with some big losses. Any of those sort of bottom 4 or 5, is there one team you can see improving and challenging for a final spot, or do you think it's sort of between United, Adelaide, Perth, South East Melbourne, Tassie, probably Sydney?
No, I still think the Hawks will come good. I think as the defending champs, they've had a slow start, but they've also already made an import change, so they got rid of Ja'Cory McLaughlin, so they will have a replacement to come in for him, and they haven't had Dave O'Hickey yet either, who was so important in their championship, and I think JaVale McGee's only going to keep getting better the more he plays here. Tyler Harvey's still playing at a high level, so I absolutely still think the Hawks will make some noise this season, but I've got real concerns for the other 3. So the Taipans have now lost 3 games by 30-plus points already early in the season, and this is a team that's now got no excuses because they've spent up big. They've paid $1 million to Jack McVeigh. They've got 2 really good imports, 3 really good imports as well if you include Marcus Lee. So, again, the Taipans are under a fair bit of pressure. Like I mentioned with the Bullets before, I'm not sure there's any way out of this for them either this season with their struggles. And, yeah, the New Zealand Breakers are very similar. They've had big losses now as well, and I think they need to make an import change as well. Isaiah Brockington's not giving them what they need. So I think we've already can see our bottom 3 right now, and there's going to be a bit of a gap between them and the rest. But, yeah, certainly don't write off the Hawks just yet.
Hey, Chris, always a pleasure to chat to you, mate. Enjoy this round of NBL action.
No, looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Great.